Good evening, everyone. Thursday night here on the channel. That means Redline Racing, Cory Harts Media Premier Series Racing action, and it's finally here. The Championship 5 round begins this evening at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Mike Campbell here, bringing you all the racing action. Cody Webster back in the car this evening as he gears up for a return to full season racing action in Season 6. He's out there getting his legs back in tonight's race, currently sitting fourth on a leaderboard for tonight's event, but it's a big night for our Championship 5. This is where their campaign to win the Season 5 championship begins. Here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, I will try to spare you with the gambling and poker-related puns here, but there's a lot riding on tonight's race. We don't know who's going to roll the dice and who's going to gamble to try and get the upper hand going into tonight's event. As we laid out last race, very stacked Championship 5 coming into this evening's affair here. Get that information on the screen for you and show you these drivers who'll be taking part in this playoff round. Brody Garner, 7 wins this season. Then Nick Miller with 3 of his own. Brinkley, 2 wins this season. And Jordan Coons getting that critical win last race at Dover International Speedway. And rounding out the rest of the group, Sartaj Man, 1 points paying win this season. The other win coming at the Darlington Raceway and the All-Star race. So you got a lot of wins here, 14 to be exact. There, you see 55 going on the track being piloted by Landon Mills for this evening's event. Personal Matters bringing Brody Garner away from the racetrack and have the substitute driver, his teammate, and also a driver who was contending for that championship until last race, where he came just a little bit short there in his fight with Jordan Coons there, just ahead of him there in the 99. So that car will be driven by Landon Mills this evening in relief of Brody Garner, but you can expect him to do very well here this evening. He's one of those drivers who knows how to get around these fast tracks. 1 win so far this season at Michigan International Raceway this season. Looking for win number 2, and certainly will look to try and help his teammate here as he looks to try and get his playoffs on the right foot. Another driver who's part of this group here as well, just ahead of him there, the 19. 3 wins this season. A strong season for Nick Miller, winning at Nashville Super Speedway, Chicagoland, and Phoenix. Look for the 19 to be pretty stout here this evening. He has a knack for these tracks, but still been about 10 races. This is the last time he's been to victory lane. We'll see if he can turn those forces around here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Other drivers part of this group, of course, Brinkley, who's been extremely strong here around this track and around different tracks he's gone to this season, getting 2 wins so far this season, 1 at Myrtle Beach, 1 at Richmond, 6 stage wins as well. So look for him to be right there in the thick of things as we get to the end of a stage. Jordan Coons, as I mentioned earlier, winning back at Dover International Speedway, a command performance out of the 99 back in Delaware to get himself that first victory this season, his first since the previous season back at Michigan International Speedway. He's looking to try and get his playoffs on the right foot, and if the Truck Series performance is any indication, he may be able to keep this run going, because we saw him win right after going to victory lane there in the playoffs in the Truck Series, which he was part of the Big 3 there. So we'll keep our eye on the 99. Catch the wall there. This is the time. You're going to make the mistakes. Do it in practice so you don't do it in the main race there. And, of course, Sartaj Man on pit road here in the 49, sitting there in his pit stall. Talked about it a moment ago. 1 win back in Martinsville that paid him points there. But, of course, getting his true first win of the season back at Darlington Raceway and what was a thrilling all-star race at that historic track. Now we'll look to see what he can do. He has been incredibly consistent so far during the playoffs. An average finish of 6.7 with 5 top 10s in those 6 races that we've run so far, and 3 top 5s in the last 4 races, including 3, finishing 3rd twice so far. So he's been very strong this season. We'll see what he can do here as we get ready for qualifying. Looking at the lap times here, Nick Miller, top of the leaderboard there by only a few fractions of a second, as Dylan Alt, one of our winningest drivers from Season 4, makes an appearance here this evening. He's sitting there nearly in a statistical tie with Nick Miller there on the standings. And then Jordan Coons, Landon Mills representing Brody Garner in 55. And Cody Webster leaving the broadcast booth to get back in the car, running up top 5. Sartaj Man, Noah Allison, Storm Patterson, Malachi Drake, and Henry Tabor completing the top 10 here, and 11 times so far on the board. Ryan Berry rounds out the group there. So now we'll go ahead and prepare for the transition to our qualifying session. Of course, these drivers will get 2 laps around this facility, and we'll see how they approach running around here as iRacing has evolved, and we've seen the evolution of the tire model and also the way you run these different tracks with the multi-groove racing at different places for speed. We'll see if that translates to qualifying itself. as the drivers now get ready to head onto the track and begin what should be an exciting round of qualifying here. See drivers lining up there and now driving away. We'll get with Jordan Coons in the 99, your winner from Dover International Speedway last race. He's heading out on the track here to try and see what he can do in qualifying. We saw him be pretty stout there in the practice session leading up to this session, so we'll see what he can do and hop in and right along with them as he takes his way into turn number 3. Running right next to the wall there, working his way through 3 and 4, passing by the entrance to pit road, and he'll kind of stay there and move his way toward that white line, coming back to the start-finish line to begin lap number 1. He's one of your Championship 5 drivers. He'll look to put down a great performance here in qualifying, not going fully to the bottom of the track, staying toward the middle there as he rises up toward the safer barrier down the backstretch, carrying a lot of speed down into turn number 3, about 185 before you're letting off and let the car sink down into the bottom of turns 3 and 4, rising up the track, passing by pit road again. Watch for that being a key area in tonight's race if you have a long green flag run. They'll cross the line here. We'll see what that puts them currently tentatively scored in the 2nd position as Dylan Alt leads to P1 right now, nearly by a 10th over the rest of the field. Exiting the corner, they're rising up the track. We'll see if this is a more speedy lap for these drivers. They work their way down the backstretch again, carrying about 185 down into the corner before letting the car rest its way down toward the bottom of turns 3 and 4, sliding up the track off the corner. They cost a little speed there. We'll see what happens as he comes back to the line. Jordan Coons will cross for lap number 2, finishing that. If he improves there, he'll sink by about 2/10 nearly down and remain in the 2nd position. Landon Mills crossing the line here, finishing his 2nd lap on the clock, a 30.77 for him. So right there behind Jordan Coons in qualifying right now. Cody Webster as well, clocking in pretty strong here with a 30.83. Henry Tabor showing up here, dropping some speed there in the 5 car. He's got a nice qualifying lap there with a 30.79. So seeing his field pack up pretty well so far. Another one of our championship drivers working their way down the front stretch toward the start-finish line to finish what looks like their 2nd lap here is Blaze Brinkley. Blaze Brinkley like a hold right now, right around 31.01. So right there toward the lower side of the standings here as other drivers look to try and finish their laps around this track. Ryan Berry has been absent for a few races here, but the 45 back on the track right now in the midst of his 1st lap in the Kodak 4. Off turn number 2, getting right next to that wall there. You kind of let the car kick out a little bit as you work off that corner and then drive it down into turn number 3 and 4. Getting right next to that white line there. Don't want to catch the apron, but you're going to do a good job to maintain that pace. Down across start-finish line for lap number 2. Let's see how it clocks him in there. We know Ryan Berry is pretty fast around these tracks, and got a 30.90 on the clock there, so about 3/10 slower than Dylan Alt right now. But in close company with Storm Patterson there in the 6th, right in the 8th position. Blaze Brinkley, as we mentioned, holding steady with a 31.01 right now. Landon Mills there with a 30.77. He's in a tie right now with Noah Allison. So seeing the time slowly filter in here. Latham Joyner on the track as well into 3. Scores a 12 on the scoring pylon, so keep that in mind if you're a fan of Latham. Rising up the track off turn 2, that might catch the wall there, and he does. You hear that smack against the wall as he hits the safer barrier there off the corner. Sartaj Mann now inside the top 3, 30.67 for him. So sporty there in the Super. It's been very fast for him this season. He's been one of the most consistent drivers so far this season, looking to carry the momentum here into the end of qualifying. Less than a few seconds left here in the session, and one of the last drivers going on right now, Sartaj Mann, looking to complete lap number 2. We'll see that he moves up there at all. He'll gain literally 1/100th of a second there, a 30.66. So your top 4 all within the same bracket there, to 30.60s, and then 30.77 behind them. Sounds like we're talking about the hard to find NVIDIA GPUs. I'm about 30.60s, 30.70s. Easier to find here on the scoring pylon than if you're trying to buy one on Newegg right now. But pole sitter right now with a 30.62 is Dylan Alt. So strong run for him, a driver we haven't seen very much of so far this season. He was one of those really sporty drivers. If you looked, you could not go to a race here last season without seeing that red car, Dylan Alt, out front and leading the field and We're going to see exactly what he can do this evening. Looking to try and grab a pole award here, there in his Chevrolet. We'll see if he's able to grab that, and he does. So congratulations, Dylan Alt, doing something we're used to seeing him do here in the series, but not much this season. One of his first appearances here, he'll get the pole for this tonight's race here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, as the field now looks to get gridded up on the front stretch here, and we'll look to see our pole sitter here momentarily. It's gonna be a fun night here. I love this track. It's so fun running around here. This is one of the first oval tracks I actually began racing on when I got onto the service back. I want to say in 2019 roughly is when I first joined iRacing. Could have been 2018. I can't even keep up. It's all a blur at this point, especially after 2020. It's all just running together. But this track is really special. I think we might see some interesting racing out there around this facility as we see these drivers try to find different grooves to keep their cars up to speed here. And your pole sitter on the scoring pylon is scored as the 007, but he is the 40 on the track there, and he is going to start on the front row P1 for this evening's race. Dylan Alt, he's your pole sitter with a 30-60 for him, so great job for him, and we'll see what he can do once we get going here. 9 wins last season, 13 top 10s in 17 starts. He was incredibly fast last season, and one of his first starts, we'll see what he can do against these drivers who are running for a championship here. When we talk about drivers who have been able to get victories over the playoff drivers, it's happened a couple of times so far this season in the playoffs. Benjamin White going to victory lane at Talladega Super Speedway to open off things here in the playoffs, and then Parker White getting 2 wins back-to-back at Texas and Charlotte Roval to spoil those playoff drivers trying to notch some victories there. Eventually we did start to see drivers get those victories though. Brody Garner notching a win to his credit. Jordan Coons as well among those drivers getting victories in the playoffs here, and of course winning back at Richmond Raceway was Blaze Brinkley. So these drivers knowing how to get to victory lane, overcoming some of those fast cars that are out there running for the trophies. Getting ready for the green flag here. Talk about the race preview here. So of course Las Vegas Motor Speedway just outside of Sin City, outside of the Strip. You're looking at a 1.5 mile, 2.41 kilometer facility here in Las Vegas. 12 to 24 degrees of banking around here. It's about 12 here on the front stretch, and then 24 around these the banking here at this facility. 134 laps on the docket. That's 201 miles exact. 4 sets of tires waiting for them on pit road, and stage length 34 laps like we traditionally have on these 1.5 mile ovals. That'll be notable to keep an eye on because we've seen these tracks have really long green flag runs. We've seen pit road play a pivotal role in our races here, so really interesting to see how these drivers will have to adapt should we start to get indications of a long green flag run. And so far in the playoffs, that has been a recurring theme here in these playoffs. Long green flag runs, sprinkles of short runs with quick cautions here or there, but the long green flag run and the pivotal final pit stop establishing who will win these races. So let's see how that plays out here this evening. Always that racing action brought to you by Circle B Diecast. Be sure to use promo code SOUP at checkout at circlebdiecast.com. You'll get free shipping on orders $20 or more. So be sure to help them out. It's always good to have Circle B Diecast here on the broadcast. We look to get the championship round underway here at Las Vegas. We've got Iowa and we got Homestead Miami to close out things here. So tonight is a very important night. Start your playoffs on a right foot as we look to get going here. Pace car making its way down into the pits here. Small field, but the action will be nice and large. The green flag is in the air. We're underway in the championship round. Coming off turn 4, lap 1 in the books. Nick Miller will lead that lap as Dylan Alt slips back to second. The battle for position continues behind them as they work their way through the front stretch off into turn 1 yet again. Jordan Coons battling with Landon Mills there in the 55 side-by-side coming off turn number 2. One of the first battles inside the top 5, and they're still side-by-side behind them as you see Henry Tabor trying to fight off the advances of Ryan Berry to the low side of the track. Side-by-side battle for the lead could be developing here off turn number 4. Nick Miller, pressure coming from behind as Dylan Alt looks to the inside, backs off through the tri-oval, back across the line. They're now continuing to see this battle behind him grow and evolve as Sartaj Man looks to bring some company with them into the battle for second. Down to the low side here, almost side-by-side coming off the corner, but they'll continue to maintain single file as looking to the low side. Will be Dylan Alt there looking to try and pounce on the 19 of Nick Miller. Side by side through the apex of 3 and 4. They'll continue the low side battle. Getting the advantage off the corner will be Dylan Alt. He's got a whole train behind him with Sartaj Man and Jordan Coons. And going to the low side is Landon Mills in the 55. Door-to-door racing back side by side in the 1. Sliding up the track nearly 3 wide there. Sartaj Man wants to put his hat in the race here as they come off turn number 2. Side by side. The advantage going to Dylan Alt down into turn number 3. It's door-to-door for the first 4 positions. Now clear of the 19 goes the 40 to the position out front, with the high side now being led by the 19 as Sartaj Man slips in behind the 40, and it's all sorts of chaos behind him as they continue to jockey for position. The rest of the field fading back from this group as they battle for the lead. Sliding up the track now goes the 40 of Dylan Alt. Great battle for position here. We talked about Dylan Alt's performance last season. He was one of the best running drivers last season. Dylan Alt, strong run, 9 wins in 17 starts there, 13 top 10s as well. He was always running for the victory there, and now trying to do it early on here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Now clear of those 2 cars behind in the battle for second, underway between 2 championship drivers, Jordan Coons and also the 19 of Nick Miller, with Sartaj Man getting in the thick of things as well. So our playoff drivers beginning to find each other here on the track early on. Down to the corner, single file for the first 2 cars. Battle for third between Sartaj Man and Nick Miller continues off turn number 4. Great hard racing here. Seeing some drivers got a line there, and that's kind of the point of the race we are in right now. 7 laps in, the car's starting to wake up. The tires are as well, so you're going to start seeing trying to search for what the best racing line is. It seems like the outside line is waking up as now Sartaj Man will grab a spot away from Nick Miller, moving him up into 3rd position as Dylan Alt leads the train down into turn number 3. So things quickly becoming single file as they exit turn number 4. Dylan Alt back out front here after getting the pole award earlier this evening, and now he'll lead this group down to turn number 1. The drivers battling for the championship making up positions 2, 3, 4, 5. The 5 car being driven by Landon Mills in relief of Brody Garner this race, so that's a different face behind the wheel of that familiar 55. The other driver who is part of this group contending for a championship is Brinkley, who is way back here in the field. He has got some work to do if he wants to try and get some viable stage points here at this part of the race. 8 laps in, coming to lap number 9, he finds himself back in 12th position, unable to make any ground forward in this field. Driving down into turn number 1 is Brinkley, still trying to find some pace here, and we talk about how the runs have been for him. He's been very consistent so far in the playoffs. He's finished 11th or better in the last 6 races, and that's been a good streak for him, including a win back at Richmond Raceway earlier in the playoffs during the round of 14. So he's been strong, but now it's time to turn it up here, and he's got to find something to close upon the rest of this field as he's now trying to make a move on Noah Allison. This is right now around the 11th position. Just ahead of them, Cody Webster, rounding out the top 10 in the 91. Still out front here, the 40, Dylan Alt trying to break away from this group here, not having much success so far, holding the gap at about a 10.5 over Jordan Coons. Sartaj Man sitting in the 3rd position, maintaining the position where he started the night, and then single file through the rest of the field. Jordan Coons, as we mentioned earlier, a strong run for him back at Dover International Speedway, leading over 100 laps in his first victory so far this season. And we saw that back in the Truck Series where he was able to finally break through and get that win at Nashville Super Speedway leading into the playoffs, and was able to double up on that and get a victory at Rockingham Speedway following up that win in the Music City. And it's not surprised to see him running strong here early on. These oval tracks are seeming to become more and more strong for him as he gets further into his redline racing career. He continues what's been a good streak of races for him overall when you look at his performance inside the playoffs here. 6 races so far completed for these drivers. He's had a good run. Average finish 5.4, including 4 top 10s, so incredibly consistent for him. Trying to build on that, running second right now as they run lap number 12. Storm Patterson trying to make some moves on the outside, moving past Henry Tabor there in the 5 car. That moves him into 6th position, into 6th. An up and down season for him. He's trying to find some pace here. He's come so close to going to victory lane. 3 second-place finishes so far this season back at Pocono, Kansas, and Talladega. So he's come close on these fast ovals, but just a little bit short there. Trying to move his way up early in this race. Now sitting inside the top 6 in 6th position. So far, 13 laps into our night here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, the night being led by Dylan Alt, making his first start here so far this season. If I'm not mistaken, he may have made an appearance at an exhibition race, but it's been a very, very quiet season out of that 40 team after having such a strong run last season. The 99 holding down 2nd position, and then the 49 of Sarge Man completing the top 3. Nick Miller, Landon Mills, the top 5. The battle is beginning to cool down here. Remember, the stage is about 34 laps for these drivers, so it's a good opportunity for them to get an understanding of how their car is going to handle as this race goes on. Looking at the information in terms of weather conditions, 84 degrees here, 87 degree track temperature. And you're noticing that the light that was shining on this track earlier in practice largely diminished here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, so this track temperature will gradually begin to cool down here and may introduce a changing track temperature for these drivers and force them to adjust their lines here. So keep an eye on that. See how these drivers move around the track and adjust to the changing conditions here. But right now, holding steady at 87 degrees, 15 laps in. The battle for the 3rd position now goes back to Nick Miller as he tries to get back to a little closer to where he started the night here. As he comes into turn number 1, Sarge Man falls back to the 4th position, down 1 spot from where he started the race. Landon Mills holding steady in 5th position. That's where he qualified the night, but now looking to apply pressure to his Nebula Esports teammate. Nebula Esports has been one of the standout organizations here so far this season, carrying nearly a dozen wins into this round here, and now you're seeing a tight battle between teammates here off turn number 4. The 55 to the low side, Sartaj Man on the outside, the 49. The Nebula drivers have been incredibly consistent here, but the pressure between them is still very strong. They race each other very hard, but it's fair as well. So constant competitors there, even though they race under the same banner. Pulling away by 0.6 of a second is Dylan Alt leading this race, and a battle for 2 positions inside the top 5 continues to heat up as Nick Miller faces pressure from the 99 of Jordan Coons and the 55 of Landon Mills, holding off the pressure from the 49 of Sartaj Man. Forgive me if I pause here or there. Getting back used to calling a race by yourself can be challenging, especially when it's a 134 lap feature like you've got on the docket here this evening. So maybe a bit slower there on the commentary to allow my voice to settle down and not get too used up as we go through what has been a pretty calm but exciting night here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And I think this is kind of indicative of what we saw back at Atlanta a couple weeks ago, where Brody Garner went to victory lane. The green flag run beginning and then kind of stabilizing. We had a couple of early cautions, I think one early caution during that first stage, and then we had that long green flag run to get us to the checkered flag, and I think we're going to see a repeat of that here as now the battle for the 3rd position gets underway. Jordan Coons facing pressure from Landon Mills in the 55 as he blinks out there for a moment. He is now back. That battle will cool down for a moment as 55 falls back in line behind the 99. The field becoming a bit strung out here as you see a gap beginning to develop between the front cars as it's now closed up just a little bit. It was about 0.6 between Dylan Alt and Nick Miller. It's now closed up to about 0.5 of a second between the 19 and the 40, but the rest of the field beginning to get a bit stratified here as they run. Look at about 5.5 seconds from Dylan Alt back to 14th Mitch Hobbs. And we're looking back through the field. The driver we talked about a moment ago now making some progress here is the 98 of Blaze Brinkley, now up into the top 10, gained 5 spots so far after holding around the 12th position about the first half dozen or so laps. Now finally finding some speed here as the long run settles in. Blaze Brinkley has been the king of getting stage points so far this season. When we talk about stage victories, maybe at least on lap number 21, unless we get a caution or something happens, maybe not be on the table for that, but even still has been incredibly consistent so far this season. During the season, his 2 wins, 12 top 10s, and 6 stage wins, which is an incredible feat there. We talk about his ability to use strategy sometimes to get up there and grab those stage victories. So most stage wins so far this season being held by that driver in the 98, and now looking to grab some points for his efforts right now, at least 22 laps into our night here at Las Vegas, is the 98 of Blaze Brinkley, another driver who has playoff round experience, being part of the championship round there back in the Truck Series a couple of seasons ago for Brinkley Hefner Racing. Out front and leading this race here, your pole sitter, Dylan Alt, still out front here. After losing the lead momentarily early in the race, he's continuing to lead this field around this track as the long green flag run settles in here again. Your pole sitter tonight with a great lap time, a 30-60 flat for him around this track. A very quick lap, only about 0.09 of a second slower than him was Nick Miller in the second position. So very close field here, and you're seeing that continue to develop as this race goes on. 0.6 of a second is back being the gap as they run here right now. The battle for third underway. Landon Mills looks to the inside of Jordan Coons, side by side through the tri-oval, going back to the start-finish line on lap number 24. One of the few battles we got going on here further back, seeing them jockey for position between Malachi Drake and company, as the 3 now gets himself inside the top 10 there. The 3, it's the 12 when you're scoring monitor there, but just go ahead and do the match. 1 + 2 is 3, so that's how we get to the 3 of Latham Joyner being on the track there. Haven't seen that car here in a while, but he's been very fast when he is at this track. I want to say last season went to victory lane back at Untitled Speedway, so he knows a thing or two about running very well on these fast ovals, and he's trying to do just that here, fighting with Malachi Drake inside the top 10. And we're seeing that continue here as this run goes on. Just the fact that the battles commence and then they quickly kind of quiet down here as the run goes on. So we saw a 3-car pack battling for position here a few moments ago, has gone right back to single file racing. Nick Miller still holding down the fort inside the top 2 right now. Good run for him and trying to build on what's been a great season for him overall. We talk about him getting 3 wins this season, specifically went to victory lane back at Nashville Super Speedway, Chicagoland, and Phoenix Raceway, which was a great kind of opening stanza for him, but it's been about 10 races since he's been back to victory lane, so I'm sure he's salivating for the opportunity to get back to his winning ways. There came close here in the playoffs, finishing I think in second position back at Richmond Raceway in the round of 14, which was a great round for him, bouncing back from a 23rd place finish at Talladega. Ended up getting 2 top 5s during that run there to really lock himself into that next round and kept that momentum going there as that round went on into the round of 10. And now he'll have the ability to fight for a championship here. For my experience of covering Nick Miller, it seems like it's a return to form for him after being a bit off step for a season or so. Now really coming back on strong here, and now it's his opportunity to try and claim himself a championship here in the Cory Harts Media Premier Series. Still leading this race, Dylan Alt out by front by only 0.6 of a second. Makes you wonder if the 07 on the scoring monitor or the 40 on track is kind of just managing the pace here, not looking to drive away and just run away with this race here. Maybe understanding some tire management here to get himself to the end of the stage and figure out what his tires can do as the run goes on. But right now, looking at his times on the scoring monitor, last time by, the lap times virtually identical for the top 2, a 44 for Miller, a 42 for Dylan Alt, and we'll keep that on the screen for you guys to see how it evolves here on this lap. Right now, about 0.05 of a second slower is Nick Miller to Dylan Alt, so really the pace not moving around too much for these drivers, but just a little bit of an advantage going to Dylan Alt there in the 40, and we'll see if that continues here. The gap growing now to 0.7 of a second, one of the largest leads we've seen him have so far tonight, and they're both beginning to gap the field here. You're looking at 2 seconds back from Dylan Alt to get to Landon Mills in the 55, and then Jordan Kuntz roughly 2.8 back, sitting in the 4th position. Sartaj Mann rounding out the top 5. Might see a battle develop here in the waning moments of the stage, and you know, if we go back to Dover and the chaos we saw break out there in that final stage, the great battle between Cole Williams your season 4 defending champion and Cory Harts there. Great battle there between those two drivers, really laying it all out there at the concrete 1 mile oval at Delaware. Great battle there. Eventually, Cory Harts coming out on top in that stage. And then we saw the contact between Nick Miller and Brody Garner at the end on the last lap of the stage between those two drivers, ultimately resulting in the stage when going to Brody Garner after it was determined that bit of a pinching move there from the 19. And we just saw some contact there between the 49 and the 98. And this is a battle for the 5th position right now in the stage. Blaze Brinkley falls back now and may be exposed to the 6th now to the inside as we get closer to the end of the stage here. So great battle, and this is again a repeat of what we've seen a lot this evening. The battles come and they go as this race goes on, and now we're seeing another battle begin to cool down momentarily here out front as the 49 holds off this group down into 1. Blaze Brinkley settles for 6th right now, and he tries to figure out if he can mount another attack. Sartaj Man, a nice lead there. He still has some work to do, about a second and about some quarter or so between himself and Jordan Coons. We'll see if he can close that gap here. That's a tall order to try and make up, though, with a surging Blaze Brinkley right behind him. Look how close he is off the corner. See if he can get some rotation here to maybe try and make a run. Not able to do it there, so has to settle in behind him as they work their way down through the front stretch here. Peeking to the low side goes the 98 of Blaze Brinkley. Maybe side by side on the exit of the corner, but the advantage may go to the 49 on the exit of the corner because it just seems like you get that bit of momentum. There's just a hint of speed there coming off the hill to get yourself just back out front of the car you're racing, but they're still going to race hard here down into the corner. BHR fighting with Nebula Esports off turn number 4 as Dylan Alt takes the proverbial white flag here in the stage, leading the field by 0.8 of a second over Nick Miller. Keeping our eye on this battle here inside the top 6 right now. Sartaj Man trying to fight off the advances of the 98 of Blaze Brinkley. Coming off turn 2, he still gets the advantage off the corner and will be able to keep himself in position down into turn number 3. Swinging back to the exit of turn number 4, coming to the start-finish line. After a good run there, holding the lead to about 0.8 of a second, Dylan Alt will capture the stage win here and will wait for everyone to pass across the start-finish line here, and a great opening stanza there for the 40, and also other drivers like you see Nick Miller be very strong as the caution comes out, and that officially declares the end of the stage, and Sartaj Man will fall and will finish. Looks like he actually will finish inside the top 5 there. I think it was a hard-fought battle to the line there, but ultimately Sartaj Man will be scored as a 5th place finisher. A great battle there for that position, but your stage winner is Dylan Alt this evening. So now they'll look to get back behind the pace car here, and we'll get to see pit stops here for the first time this evening. So congratulations to the 40, the 07, whatever he wants to call himself. He is the stage winner here this evening at the track, and now it's an opportunity for everyone to come down to pit road and get themselves fresh fuel and tires, and now they have a fuel run somewhat under their belts and a tire run as well. So now they'll have an understanding of what the tire situation will look like as this run goes on. As we've always alluded to, these drivers are very engaged in their Discord conversations, their TeamSpeak communications to trade data. I'm sure once they get those tires off, they'll be shouting numbers and percentages and saying how much their tires have worn during this current run. The cars making their way down into pit road here as we now get our first pit stops of the night. Dylan Alt will lead them into the pits. Important pit stops here. This will set up this probably a long green flag run here. It's pretty normal to see long green flag runs during a course of a Las Vegas race here on iRacing. I think you might see a repeat of that here as we saw the field get pretty strung out there early on, and then we saw the battles kind of get a bit more intense and then fade down and get more intense. So it's really just an ebb and flow we're seeing in our race here, and we'll see how that plays out as we watch the drivers now sit on pit road, and we'll see how they handle getting serviced here. Likely 4 tires fuel. We can't imagine anyone playing any sort of different strategy there. First off pit road, Dylan Alt, Nick Miller, Sartaj Man, Storm Patterson, and Latham Joyner completing the top 5 off pit road. Jordan Coons, Henry Tabor, and Ryan Berry, the first 8 drivers out of the pits. So good run there for our top 10 drivers, get themselves some stage points here. Other drivers just running and trying to get some trophies here out front leading. Dylan Alt will look to get the restart here momentarily, as it's been a fun night here. The first race in our championship round underway here at Las Vegas. Still behind the pace car here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Dylan Alt, one of the first drivers off pit road, followed by Nick Miller, Sartaj Man, Storm Patterson, and Latham Joyner. While we remain behind the pace car here, it gives us an opportunity to talk about the last race we had, which was obviously at Dover International Speedway, which set our championship 5, as we're seeing some drivers make their way maybe back into the pits here. Are they playing a little game here? No, they're all coming back into the pits here. Majority of the field, if anything. Nick Miller, Sartaj Man coming into the pits, Storm Patterson, Latham Joyner, Jordan Coons. So already seeing the strategy play out here. And we talk about strategy. One of the things to think about here is the fact that we saw strategy help a driver go to victory lane. Jordan Coons using that to go to victory lane back at Dover International Speedway, finishing about a second and 8/10 ahead of Landon Mills. Brody Garner finishing third position. Cole Williams, Malachi Drake, the top 5. We see drivers already racing back off pit road. So shuffling up our top 5 right now, as many drivers coming into pit road to top off there. So now, after I just rattled off who was inside the top 5, completely new look for that group there. We'll go and look at them right now. Dylan Alt did not come out of pit road for this latest time past pit road. Ryan Barry up in the second position. Noah Allison, Cody Webster, the top 4 right now. Nick Miller will slide into the 5th position. Storm Patterson, Sartaj Man, Latham Joyner, Jordan Coons, Henry Tabor looking to complete the top 10 as we look to get the green flag here at the track and get back underway, as this race could turn into a fuel mileage race. We've seen drivers play completely off the wall strategy and use cautions to their advantage to get themselves in position to win these races. Could see that very thing happen here. The pace car looks to turn its lights off, which they already are, turn left, which it will do, and get this field back underway under the green flag condition. There it is, making his way into the pits. We're back underway here at Las Vegas. Leading this race, Dylan Alt. Single file pretty quickly there, working through turns 1 and 2, out front leading the race. Dylan Alt, Ryan Barry now up into the second position, way up into the top 10 after being pretty deep in the field there, up 9 spots so far tonight. Cody Webster inside the top 3 as well, looking to make a move potentially outside of Ryan Barry and looking to try and keep the 40 in his windshield right now, because we've seen how strong that 40 is as the run goes on. We're trying to hang close to him and keep applying pressure. Outside line, working for the 91, surging there, looking side by side with the 45 of Ryan Barry. Single file on the high side there, and he'll lose the spot. Now Cody Webster up to the second position and looking to make a move on the outside, and he's going to power to the front there. Surging move for him coming through the tri-oval. Cody Webster takes the lead from Dylan Alt on lap number 42. They'll keep racing down to turn number 1. The 40 now back into the second position. Ryan Barry in third. Cody Webster in a 91 from the booth to leading the field here at Las Vegas. A good run for him as he looks to make a return to full season competition when we get to season number 6 later this year. So good start for him running for Proximity Racing, the 91. Some of those drivers who've made their way into the pits right before we got the green flag are working their way toward the front here. Leading that group is the 19 of Nick Miller, now sitting in the 4th position. Sartaj Mann and Noah Allison completing the top 6 there as they exit turn number 2. Seeing drivers take that splash is not surprising. It's pretty common to see drivers constantly play the fuel numbers game. And as I alluded to, right as the stage ended there, you knew you were going to start hearing drivers and their communications talk about the numbers on their tires, numbers on their fuel, what numbers do we need to hit to plan our stop and get it as far out as we can. They're always number crunching here, and I'm sure that's what led a number of those drivers to make their way into the pits. Only a few drivers opted not to come into the pits there during that last pass by pit road. Cody Webster, Dylan Alt among them. I said among them, not among us. No one's sus here. Lap 44, as they work off the corner, closing the gap, is Dylan Alt working toward the start-finish line. We'll see if he makes a move to the outside here. Peeking there, seeing what the grip levels are like, and I think it's kind of one of those games of how soon he can get the outside line to work and make the inside unadvantageous for the driver running it right now, and forced to have to let off a little bit there as they come off the corner is the 91, which is going to open the door for side-by-side racing down the backstretch going into turn number 3. Door to door, side by side there at a battle for the lead underway. The 40 working the outside line. How he lost the lead a few moments ago is how he'll try and regain it coming back to the start finish line. One of our championship drivers having some troubles here after running inside the top 10, battling for 5th. Coming to the end of the stage now, scored into 14th position, down 9 laps. As Blaze Brinkley certainly will feel a blow to his championship run here right now at the battle for the lead. Continues, and now Dylan Alt back out front here, and Cody Webster having to go into defense mode as the 45 of Ryan Berry looks to his outside and will grab the position away. So now we're seeing the roles reverse a little bit, and when you're on an inside line and the outside line begins to move, you are a sitting duck. And now it's about the 91 trying to close the door there, and fighting back on the inside is Cody Webster, fighting with Ryan Berry off the corner. Just behind him, we saw Jordan Coons engaged in a duel, working his way through turns 1 and 2. He'll settle in line, and we'll get right back single file as Noah Allison slots into the 6th position. Some glimpses of brilliance there out of the 24, but largely a down season for him there, but looking to try and turn it up here a little bit before the end of the season. Any night is a good night for a good finish. He's trying to get that going right now. Lap 48, the 24 is solidly inside the top 10. Jordan Coons fighting back on the outside here. They'll continue the duel down into the corner, so the outside line beginning to wake up here for these drivers as Ryan Berry will now slot back into the 2nd position. They'll fight for this position right now, 6th to be exact, as they come across our finish line as Jordan Coons looks to try and clear as they cross the line, and he will. So again, we're seeing these different battles develop here, and the battle will continue as Dylan Alt now faces some pressure from Ryan Berry. Got there, had to let off as the car, when you're on that low side, begins to tighten up, and you need to keep off the car you're racing or the wall itself. Ryan Berry continuing to hold down the 2nd position. 1st position, Dylan Alt, the top 3, all non-playoff drivers right now. Good runs out of these cars as they come back toward us here in turn number 1. And the drivers who came up pit road most recently slowly again creeping into the picture here, holding that 4th position still, trying to close the gap on Cody Webster is the 19 of Nick Miller. Sartaj Mann not too far behind here as well. We talked about Sartaj and how consistent he's been. Really, I think personally, and it's probably my fault for it, he's flown under the radar in terms of his performance. But once you turned and looked at what he was doing, a very strong season for him. 3 top 5s in the last 4 races. He's finished 3rd twice during that run, so extremely consistent for him, and looking to try and keep that run going and extend it to 4 races in 5 for him. So it's been extremely good. That 49 here, and has again been a quiet season getting those 2 wins, one being a non-points paying win back at Martinsville, and the other, back at Darlington in the points paying win. The one that really probably means a lot to him, winning at Martinsville in what was a crazy night in Southwest Virginia. But a good run for him tonight so far, inside the top 5 as they battle for position just ahead of him. Nick Miller, Cody Webster engaged in battle here. This is the battle that we saw. Remember, 91 did not come to pit road. The 19 did right before we got the green flag there. So slightly different fuel strategy here, putting him a little further back. Webster well up into the top 5 here, trying to fight to hang on to the last step of the podium, coming off turn number 4. Still dueling here. Watch through the windshield of Sartaj Man as he sees this battle unfold in front of him. Which lane will he choose? He'll look toward the low side here and follow behind the 19 through the corner, just kind of floating around, seeing where the opportunity lies. And that's the thing about Las Vegas. When you're the guy following behind the battle that's unfolding, it's hard to figure out which lane to take here. Do you go low? Do you go high? You're trying to gauge which line's going to move. It's a little more frustrating than, say, Daytona or Talladega, where I feel like the lane movement's a little more clear. Here, it's just very, very difficult to understand which lane is trying to move in. You're seeing now the 91 may face some pressure from Sartaj Man as he tries to follow through with the 19 on this pass, but there's really nowhere for them to go. Right now, it's really just sit and wait right now as he continues to watch this battle for the 3rd position through his windshield. Still side by side here for the 3rd spot. More drivers joining the fray. Jordan Coons now part of this group, exiting the corner. Jordan Coons having a great season, as we've talked about often this season, and finally breaking through, getting that first win this season. But even before that, talk about the performance he's had so far. 1 win, 16 top 10s, and over 200 laps led there for the 99. Getting out front and getting out front often has been the mantra of that proximity racing forward, and looking to try and do that here, but really watch this battle unfold between now the 49 and the 91, as the 19 has finally been able to break free of that car. Now we'll look to try and challenge the 45 here. So it's getting real hectic here in Las Vegas. Everyone leaving their cars on the table as they race down into turn number 1. Nearly 3 wide there for a moment as they worked around the corner. The Sartaj Man will be clear of Cody Webster, and he'll try and follow through with the other drivers he has gone to pit road with before we took the green flag most recently. Pressure being applied to the back bumper of Ryan Berry, working off the corner, and now looking toward the inside goes Nick Miller. He'll fall back in line though. And that's the thing about that corner, coming off forward, you'll look there to see if you'll get the run, but you kind of just stall out sometimes. You don't have that car wound up and you don't get that great rotation you need. And that's the other thing you need to watch out for too, that just slight touch of the apron will grant you a reprieve from the driver you're racing against that you're racing with, and then you may end up having pressure from behind as the driver tries to close the gap after you've made a little bit of a mistake there. That apron can be very unforgiving when you're trying to run around here and run perfect laps when you're in traffic like this. The last place you want to be is the apron here. You don't even want to really get near it. You definitely want to kind of bounce off and cause that car to get tight there, and we saw that happen to the 19 here. Much better rotation through 1 and 2. More careful rotation there, and now looking to try and apply pressure to the 45. And we got this nice shot down off into turn number 3. He'll get to the inside here and try to apply pressure to the 45's inside off of turn number 4. Great duel here, nearly contact there coming back to the start-finish line. They'll still be side by side. Great view here. Lights are on and the sun is down here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And up the track goes the 19, and the 45 gets into the back of him there off the corner. If it cause any damage there to that car, now that might open the door for Sartaj Man to capitalize. Hard racing, a slip up the track there for the 19. Now reopening the door for battle, and you see a little bit of damage there on the back bumper of that 19. We'll see if that affects him here as this run goes on. One of the fastest drivers here on the night now faces a little bit of damage on that car. May be fine though, but now back under pressure from Sartaj Man. It's a traffic jam through turns 1 and 2. The 45 slots into the low side, but may face pressure from the 99 and the 91. Great battle we're seeing through the field here. The 91 Now forced to lose a spot there to the 99, and may open the door for the 3 to apply pressure coming through. The trial will down into turn number 1. Has gained a lot of spots here, restarted inside the top 5 as fading back slowly here, but holding his own is Cody Webster, our normal person in the booth alongside me, having a great run as he prepares for his return to full season competition here in a few weeks as we look towards season 6, and I cannot wait to do a schedule unveil for that here once we get to the end of the season here at Homestead Miami. We'll do a full schedule reveal and talk about the races I'm looking forward to here in only a couple weeks, so that's gonna be exciting there. Watch these guys settle down here, and again we're going through the ebb and flow of this race, now back into a quiet period as the drivers begin to settle in and just log laps here, and we're seeing the battles cool down a bit. The 99 looking to the outside rather on that Kodak machine of Ryan Berry. He'll surge and get the position on entry into turn 3 and hold the middle line through rotation of turns 3 and 4. Cody Webster and Storm Patterson make it 3 wide with the 45, and it settles down to 2 between Storm Patterson and Ryan Berry down into turn number 1. Great run here for the 6. One of the best runs we've seen out of him in a long time. There, as he's had up and down performance for him, and I'm sure he would even admit that himself, just sometimes wrong place, wrong time for that 6 car, but a solid pace for him as he now gets into the back bumper of the 45. And there's another bump there, and up into the wall goes Ryan Berry. And that just was very interesting there as we're back behind the pace car for the 2nd time this evening. First for an on-track incident. Very interesting moment there between those 2 cars. So we'll take a look at the replay here and see if we can figure out what happened there. So a little bit after the action there, so we'll wind it back and do it the old-fashioned way. Let's get a better look at what happened there. So the camera kind of goes off him a little bit there, went into the corner, but driving it in deep goes the 6 there, and it's kind of a couple of bumps there, a bump, and then into the wall, into Latham Joyner. That results in heavy impact there for the 45. And we'll rack it back one more time and just get another look at it from a different angle. Let's see if one of these other cameras will give us a nice shot. What happened there is looking from the inside line of the corner. There's a couple of bumps there and up the track and behind the RV, and then hard impact in that wall. Could have been a lot harder, but still impact nonetheless, as now we jump back to our live pictures here at the track. And the drivers making their way into the pits here for the 2nd time this evening, for some 3rd time for others. So lap number 65 in the book for these drivers, and a timely caution for some. And this could open the door for some of those drivers who opted to stay out during that latest caution to be able to get on cycle with the other drivers that had opted to on the track here. But it still opens the door for some of those drivers who did play strategy the last time we were on pit road to opt to do it again. And now we're seeing the 40 off pit road first. Startage Man, Nick Miller, Jordan Coons, Cody Webster, the top 5 out of the pits, and then Mitch Hobbs, Noah Allison, Henry Tabor among those leaving behind them. So back behind the pace car for the 2nd time this evening. I'm going to step away, get myself a drink, prepare my notes, and when we get back, I'll talk about who finished the race at Dover pretty clean and survived a duel with Miles the Monster. Still behind the pace car here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. You see Blaze Brinkley going by the pace car there. He is several laps down. I think maybe a connection issue could have potentially affected him there, but trying to get some of those laps back right now is the 98. Back to what I alluded to as we were behind the pace car there, right before I stepped away to get my notes together. We always got to talk about our clean race finishes presented by Arundel Auto Detailing, and Jordan Coons started first, finished first in our race back at Dover International Speedway. Good run by him, did it without getting a single incident point there. Landon Mills gaining 7 spots to finish second, and also doing that without getting any incidents. And Cole Williams, your defending series champion, picking up another top 5. He's gotten a good run going here when he makes those part-time starts. 3 top 5s and 4 starts this season, and he finished in 4th spot last race, gaining 9 spots for his efforts. And of course, whenever we have clean race finishes, those are presented by Arundel Auto Detailing. Getting ready for the restart here. Some drivers making pit stops here during the closing moments of this caution period. Landon Mills in the pits, Ryan Berry making a stop here, and Malachi Drake in the pits as well. We see he is a couple laps down here, but notably Landon Mills making a quick stop here and out to rejoin the track here. So he'll fall back outside the top 10 and look to regain those spots on the upcoming run. Dylan Ault will be the leader on this upcoming restart. Sartaj Mann in second, Nick Miller, Jordan Coons, and Mitch Hobbs the top 5. Further back in the field, Cody Webster, Henry Tabor completing the top 7, Noah Allison, Latham Joyner, Storm Patterson the top 10. As we look toward the restart here, of course, let's take a look at the schedule here. It's a short schedule. There's not much left on the docket here, but these 2 races, of course, will be pivotal in deciding our champion. Going to America's Heartland and Iowa Speedway. Next race, that track is just so difficult to run. There's nowhere to make passes. It's going to be hard to move there. It's going to be a good race for our second to last race in the playoffs, and then home to Miami Speedway serving as our season finale. Let's see what these drivers can do. We head there, but we got plenty more laps on tap. Here at Las Vegas, green flag is back out. Dylan Ault will lead him back to the start-finish line to take lap number 68. Already seeing battle for position throughout the field here. The battle for second settling down momentarily. Nick Miller back where he started the race inside the top 2. Sartaj Mann running the outside line to get a spot on Jordan Coons. He'll move up into 3rd, and Coons will settle for 4th. The top 4 unchanged from when he started the night. Cody Webster up 4 spots on the evening, now going back to the outside line. That helped him get the lead during the last restart. He'll get up there and get racy and maybe a bit sideways there and lose some momentum, and will leave him vulnerable to the 24 and the 89 on the low side of the track. Good heads-up driving by him to hang on to that car, and he'll try and get the momentum back on the outside line. Seems like it works really well for him on the restarts, and then it fades off a little bit as the run gets going, as we ride along with him and see exactly what he's doing when he's right on that upper lane, staying about a car length off the low side of the track. And now you see 24 trying to slide up there, and now he'll change lanes, goes to the low side of the track. So right when we hop in to see him experiment with the outside line, he'll change it up and go to the inside. Driving it in deep there, carrying a lot of speed down toward the low side of the racetrack through turns 1 and 2. He'll go up the track here and try to maybe reassert himself up there, but not able to do much with it because he's not able to get free of the 24 going into that corner. That's one of the things about this track as well. If you can't get back into the position you like running at, it's so hard to get up there and get back in line there. As you can see, he's finally clear of the 24 and now may try to go back to the high side here. And now you see other drivers migrating their way up the track as well. The 99 up there and the 19 was up there momentarily, now down on the low side of the track. All while Dylan Ault looks to try and drive away here, holding the lead to about a 10th, but you see the drivers closing in quickly on the inside and the outside line. The 99 surging on the upper lane, looking to try and challenge Dylan Ault. Lap number 71, side by side coming to the start finish line, crossing it. It'll be a duel down into turn 1 for positions 1 and 3. Great momentum on the high side for the 99. He's going to try and clear the 40 here. He will do just that. So now the 99 falls back to, moves up to the 1st position. Falling back to 2nd is Dylan Ault there. And now Cody Webster up into 3rd, looking to keep that high line going, and the low side being held by Nick Miller and Sartaj Mann. Noah Allison holding strong in the 6th position. Mitch Haas back in 7th. Brody Garner, cars being run by Landon Mills in the 55, and he's trying to move his way back up into the top 10 here after making a late pit stop at the end of that caution period. So the fuel game being played there by the 55, and he's trying to find a way to get back into the top 10 here early in this run. You talk about the performance of Landon Mills. Despite not being part of the championship picture this season, it does not diminish the run that he had here in the playoffs. He finished inside the top 5 in 5 of 6 playoff races. So when you have that car out on the track, and now that 55 being piloted by Landon Mills, you know it knows how to get to the front and get the job done. So he will try to work his way to the front here as the drivers out front continue to battle for position. Jordan Coons out front here leading this race. Cody Webster now into the 2nd position using the outside line to his advantage again. Now dropping Dylan off back to the 3rd spot. Nick Miller, Sartaj Man, the top 5. Single file for the first 6 cars. All those cars within about a second of each other. Off the corner trying to find where the door is open. You saw the 40 looking toward the low side there. Couldn't get there, so you have to settle in behind her momentarily. And we'll keep eyeing up that low side. He's riding that white line very well, not catching the apron at all, trying to apply pressure to the 91 of Cody Webster. Down onto the apron goes the 91, a traditional line here at Las Vegas, but haven't seen many drivers do that as much here during tonight's race. Back up into the racing groove and trying to keep that 40 at bay off the corner. Seeming like he's running that inside line and then just loses a bit of the nose there, and it leaves him vulnerable in moments like this. And you're seeing about for a second now awaken between the 40 and the 91. Webster holding the outside line, the 40 being run down to the low side of the track, and he gets a good bit of momentum there, Webster does, to keep the 40 at bay. But man, you see that field compressing there going into 1. It's really stacking up these cars here on the low side. As Coons goes up the track a little bit, may open the door for Webster, but he's got a whole mirror full of the 40, and now the 19 going to the outside here, and moving up to the high side of the track goes the 40 of Dylan Alt. So you're seeing these drivers really move around, try to find a way to get around each other, but still end up consolidating at times until they can get that next run. So really, it's a matter of side by side finding runs and then having to just give up momentarily and try and find the runs again. Really aggressive moves out here. We're seeing these drivers try to do everything they can to get around each other. The 40 still unrelenting on the back bumper of the 91, heading down the backstretch here. The battle for the lead now heating up, as well as the 19 of Nick Miller looks to the inside of Jordan Coons right now. Side-by-side battle for the lead again. We've seen great duels for the first position all through tonight's race. That continues here as Jordan Coons faces a fight on the outside, with the inside line being held by Nick Miller, looking for win number 4 this season. The 40 now to the inside of Cody Webster as they work off of turn number 2. He'll get the spot away and now try to stop the crossover move as Webster swings back up to the high side, and out front the battle cools down a bit, but Jordan Coons back out front here as we go single file again, and we're seeing that ebb and flow in the race. That's just been the characteristic of the night. We have those great battles, and then it cools down as the tires just change and the temperature, the track changes as well. Even little changes, like 1 or 2 degrees, can affect the grip levels and the pace of the race. Speaking of the weather, you're seeing the temperature hold pretty steady here. Minor fluctuations through the night, but largely holding right now at 87 degrees. That's been kind of the characteristic of our night here, where we're seeing the temperature go up and go down just by a tick or 2, but holding steady right now at 87. That's about where we started the night here. So single file right now toward the front. Sartaj Man now looking to try and keep the 91 behind them here as they work through turns 1 and 2. 81 laps into our night here at Las Vegas, and this is a big night for these drivers, trying to get their playoffs underway here the right way, and seeing a lot of our playoff drivers find their way back into the top 5 here. Jordan Coons leading that group as well. Of course, he's the first driver who's in the championship 5 out front right now, followed by Nick Miller, then Sartaj Man back and forth. And you have to go way back into the field to find Landon Mills driving a 55 for Brody Garner, and then Brinkley down 4 laps right now. So some drivers facing some setbacks here. Landon Mills making a late pit stop during the most recent caution to stretch the fuel a little bit further. So playing the long game here likely is the 55. So we'll see what he can do. But right now the run just carrying on for the 55 right now. These drivers now trying to continue to race each other. The Nick Miller machine facing pressure from the 40 of Dylan Alt, trying to regain some positions after falling back in the field a little bit earlier in the race. I'm sorry, I'm tripping up myself. I apologize. It's been a while since I've called a race by myself, so I apologize for the unprofessional, I guess, slip-ups there. I'm trying my best to get my voice back and a bit fatigued as well, so I apologize for that. But right now, continue to watch this battle for the top 3 as the 40 of Dylan Alt applies pressure to the back bumper of the 19 of Nick Miller, side by side, potentially coming down the backstretch here. We've seen that 40 be really placed into the grindstone in terms of battles right now, which like we saw earlier between himself and Cody Webster. We'll see if we see a repeat of that as this run goes on. The notable thing is you're seeing this field really get strung out here. The front 3 all within about 3/10 of each other. And then you're looking at about a second back to 4th place Sartaj Mann, and then nearly 2 seconds to Cody Webster. So the field beginning to get stratified yet again, 85 laps into our night. Only 2 cautions so far this evening as well. One for the end of the stage after 34 laps, and then of course we saw the caution come out right around lap number 64. So we're watching the field continue to work their way around this track, and 86 laps into our night, another long green flag run on tap. So it begs the question, will we see green flag pit stops play a factor in our night here? And the longer this run goes on, the more likely the answer is going to be yes. And if we go back to Atlanta Motor Speedway, what we saw there a couple of weeks ago, Brody Garner in 55 ultimately going to victory lane there, pit road was a pivotal part of the night for those drivers. Being able to get on and off pit road, which Atlanta is probably one of the more tricky pit roads to get onto, not only because of the way the track is configured, at least the old Atlanta. Obviously they're reconfiguring the track as we speak, and you've seen videos of that track and how you race it now. But at least the version of Atlanta that exists on iRacing right now, pretty difficult to get on the pit road, especially those old, worn, battered tires that Atlanta were anti during an entire run. So that became a really important part of the race for these drivers. And we saw some have issues during those green flag stops, like Landon Mills and Brinkley making contact at the entrance to pit road, presenting some issues for them. Ultimately, we saw Landon Mills able to rebound there and finish inside the top 5, but it goes back to the point that pit road has to be perfect, especially if you're running inside the group we're watching right now, especially this top 3 here. Jordan Coons leading this race, Nick Miller and Dylan Alt right there inside the top 3. Being perfect on pit road is a must if these drivers want to win this race. And for a driver like Sartaj Mann finding himself not too far away from that trio of drivers, he's hoping maybe for a mistake there. He's hoping he can get in the pit road a little more aggressively than the drivers in that top 3 there, because again, it's not just about getting into your pit stall that's important. It's about the entire time you're on pit road. For my Formula 1 fans out there, when you hear them talk about pit stop, they talk about the entire time you're on pit road. How much time are you losing, not just being stationary in your box, but also from coming in to going back out and rejoining the racing surface. And that's something we track very closely here, and we'll keep our eye on it as we go further into this run. Sartaj Mann, he's got his whole windshield full of this battle here as Jordan Coons continues to lead here at Las Vegas. Nick Miller keeping the 40 at bay behind him in 3rd position. Right now, Nick Miller holding strong with where he started at the night in the polls that are down 2 spots on the evening. Cody Webster a little further back, falling back in this field. He is currently sitting in the 5th position. When we talk about positions gained, been a modest gain for a lot of these drivers here. We've seen drivers gain a lot and then lose it over the course of the night, but right now, Cody Webster in a tie with another driver right now in terms of most position gained. It's 4 for him, and also it's 4 for that driver right there, the 89 of Mitch Hobbs. So a good night for him. Back there in some traffic right around Landon Mills, driving at 55, now into the 8th position for him. But we'll see how this goes as we go further into the night. But right now, those drivers are currently tied for most positions gained on the night. Speaking of Landon Mills, you see him there in the 55. The last time he was on pit road was right around lap number 66. So for him, he may be able to go a little bit longer on field, or could be playing a bit of a game here. I don't know if they're in their window to make it all the way to the end of the race. I think some people are probably saying it might be a tall order, or could be a different strategy here. But right now, the 55 in some traffic here, but finally able to start moving his way through the field here. He's got a couple of cars here as the 24 catches the wall there off the corner. He'll lose a bunch of spots there after running inside the top 10 for much of the night. He'll fall back to the 10th position, well in front of Latham Joyner, who's 11th right now. But going back to Landon Mills, the last time he was on pit road again, it was lap number 66. So what's notable about that is the last time most of the field was on pit road was lap number 64, right after the caution flag came out for the contact between Storm Patterson and Ryan Berry. So certainly keep our eye on how this may play into strategy here for the 55, but now he is up to the 6th position after running deep in the field for much of this current run. Eyes back on the battle for the lead. All these drivers pitted on lap number 64, so no extra splash for them during the most recent caution period, but the battle continuing to heat up here. These drivers really just maintaining pace with each other, and we'll look at the lap times here and let them cross the start-finish line, and we'll let the data pop up there. Let's see where they're running. Compare lap times to each other. A 50 for Jordan Coons, a 49 for Nick Miller, and a 47 for Dylan Alt. So these drivers are literally running mirrored lap times and nearly running about a 10th faster than Sartaj Mann in the 4th position, as we may see a driver look to the inside. That's going to be Dylan Alt making a move on the 19. And when you see this in your mirror, if you're Jordan Coons, that nothing but benefits you, because you want to see them race behind you if you're trying to win this race. But as we've seen a lot this evening, the runs off the corner have been the pivotal part of defense for these drivers. If you're able to get the run off the corner as the defending car, you're able to protect that spot. And let's watch them come off turn number 4. You'll see the 99 gets a good run, but the 19 is a little bit better there off the corner. He'll drop down and look to grab that spot, and now going way up the track next to the safer barrier goes the 40 of Dylan Alt, trying to find something. Caught some momentum there, swings it down to the low side, and he'll look to surge and grab the spot away. And from the high side of the track down to the low side, he literally went from the penthouse suites of the track down to the casino pit area here at Las Vegas. A great move there to get second away from Nick Miller. Will he employ that again to get back to the lead? Sailing up the track goes a 40, and now the 99 likely watching this here that comes off turn number 4. The 19 tried to apply some pressure there to nerf the momentum and maybe make a run for his own. And now the 40 goes to the outside, applying pressure to the 99. The battle for the lead underway here. The 40 using some strats there, going to the high side and getting some speed in that car. And he'll thunder from 3rd to 1st. And only a couple of laps. Dylan Alt back out front. Jordan Coons and Nick Miller will have to duke it out for 2nd right now. Lead change, lap number 98. Great move there by the 40, using the outside of the track and then swinging it down low to get it wound up to make the pass on the next couple of corners. And I think we have green flag pit stops underway here. Drivers making their way in. Got Cody Webster rejoining the track here. Noah Allison in the pits right now, and Latham Joyner making pit stops right now. This is the money stop for these drivers right now as we're watching the battle for 2nd continue to unfold. The 99 and the 19 will pass by pit road, and actually the 99 will quickly turn down toward the pits here, gets it down the pit road speed, and now we'll try and traverse pit road and get back out. And let's see how it all plays out here. This is the money stop, lap number 100. We've got drivers making green flag pit stops, and including championship contenders. Dylan Alt back out front here by about 0.6 of a second as green flag pit stops get underway right now. We'll see when these drivers opt to come in here and make their stop. The 40 slowing it down to get into the pits, and the 19 will join him. He's going to try and close up that gap and really get in the pit road hot, but of course keep it under the speed limit here. Looking at the time on pit road for most of these drivers exiting the pits, of 44:47 for Jordan Coons. Looking at the field, it's pretty much in line with Cody Webster's time on pit road, a little bit faster than some other drivers as well, so seeing that traversal of pit road really be pivotal here for these drivers. Leading the race now, Sartaj Man, Landon Mills in the 55 elevates himself to second place right now as the 49 now makes his way into the pits here, giving the lead to Landon Mills. Storm Patterson now up into second position. As we mentioned, Landon Mills, last time he was on pit road, lap number 66. So that's certainly in his favor right now if he wants to go a little bit longer here, but obviously he's paying attention to all the metrics right now and how much time he could lose by staying out there on the track a little bit longer. Storm Patterson as well, last on pit road, lap number 64. They're the last couple of drivers left to complete this cycle right now. Landon Mills foregoes pit road along with Storm Patterson. Jordan Coons there, you see him just behind this group working through the tri-oval. Currently right now just ahead of Dylan Alt. When we compare the time on pit road in terms of pit road traversal, pretty good in terms of, for Dylan Alt, a 44:17 compared to a 47 for Jordan Coons. But looks like maybe a little bit of time lost, maybe getting back on the track there, because you see obviously the 99 out front here by a nice little margin, as now Storm Patterson looks to make his way on the pit road there and brings it down along with Landon Mills. So important pit stops for them. The leaders will cycle around. Jordan Coons will be out front of Dylan Alt right now. Cody Webster now also in the thick of this group with Nick Miller as well on lap number 103. These are really important pit stops here. The leaders cycling around presumptively. Jordan Coons, Dylan Alt, Cody Webster would be the top three should things cycle around as they are. Landon Mills getting serviced here, likely finishing up here momentarily. Wants to get off pit road and get a strong run here, but remember, he pitted one more time before we went back to the green flag. He's going to stay on pit road here and lose a few spots as he now gets off pit road and maybe side by side gets clear of the 6 here as he rejoins the track. But now Landon Mills will bring that Chevrolet back onto the track here, and right now sitting around the 6th position, maybe lose a couple more spots there, but remember, his run was a little bit longer than everyone else's. So out front by about 1 second right now is Jordan Coons leading this race over the 40 with a 007 of Dylan Alt. Cody Webster up 6 spots tonight, running inside the top 3. Nick Miller in the 4th position, and Sartaj Man completing the top 5 as we finish what should be our final pit stops of the night, unless we have a caution flag rack these drivers up and bring them together again. Now, one thing to note, even though we've seen some drivers opt to come down the pit road a couple of extra times during the caution flag periods we've had 2 so far, I don't know if that's going to play necessarily a big factor in terms of how many tires these drivers have left. They should probably all be in the same boat in terms of number of tires, because if you remember, most of the drivers that came in for those extra stops were only in their pit stalls for a few seconds just to top off on fuel. Very unlikely they took another set of tires just to end up taking another set later, only a few moments later. I don't think that's a feasible strategy, obviously, so I think you'll probably see these drivers all be in a similar boat and come in and take fuel and tires to finish out the race should we get another yellow. But right now, long green flag run. We've completed a fuel cycle and a pit cycle as well. Back out front by 0.7 of a second, climbing to 0.8 is Jordan Coons right now. As I mentioned right now, in hot pursuit is the 40 of Dylan Alt, and as we profiled earlier in the race, he was a king of running here in the Premier Series back last season. When you look at the top of the standings, normally you would see that 40 out front, and he did it very often there. We bring up that information for you to take a look at. 9 wins, 13 top 10s, and 17 starts. An incredible stat there, and so many laps left. I think that was what was the defining moment of his season. While not winning the championship that season, the number of laps he led was incredible. I want to say, please, I could be mistaken there, but if I go back to my season 4 notes, at least 1,000 laps led. I could be off there, but given the number of wins and when he would get out front, how often he would stay out front, I'm almost certain he led over 1,000 laps en route to what was a commanding season here in season number 4. One of his first starts this season has been strong overall, winning the stage earlier in the race and now looking to try and pursue Jordan Coons here as we count down to the end of our night here at Las Vegas. And as we mentioned earlier in the evening, only a couple more races left on the schedule here before we conclude the season and crown our season champion, Iowa Speedway next race, and then we're going to Homestead Miami Speedway to end our night. So the lead dwindling down just a little bit here, cut in half since the last time we profiled it and we looked at it after they came off pit road and the cycle completed, now down to 0.4 of a second, but they have just completely checked out from the rest of the field here, now out to about a 3.3 second lead over Nick Miller. Speaking of Nick Miller, he has now moved back up into the top 3, unseating Cody Webster from that spot, who is now running inside the top 5 in 4th position, and then Sartaj Mann rounding out the top 5. Landon Mills back there in 6th position, and Mitch Haas back in 6th position. Landon Mills in 7th right now, trying to keep Henry Tabor and Storm Patterson at bay right now, and just seeing the strategy not really pay off right now for the 55 as this long run continues to march on here, as he is very much a sail of the field right now, 9 seconds behind race leader Jordan Coons, and then looking at about 3 seconds to get to the top 5 where Sartaj Mann is currently seated. The lead now down to 0.2 of a second, just under, as they work through turns 3 and 4. Dylan closing up, looking to try and apply pressure and make a move on Jordan Coons here. We saw a phenomenal battle for the lead between the likes of Jordan Coons, Dylan and Nick Miller earlier in the race, right before those green flag pit stops, where we saw the 40 thunder to the high side of the track and then dive down to the low side to get the momentum in the car, and it helped him go from 3rd to 1st place in only a couple of laps, throwing that long run there like he was in another area code in terms of pace, but really using the outside line and that multi-groove racing to get himself the momentum he needs to make those key passes. And now seeing the outside line begin to be used by the 40, working through turns 1 and 2. The 40 now under pressure through the apex of 1 and 2. And he may lose the lead here coming off the corner, as Dylan will grab the position back. He'll go back to the point, and Dylan will go back to the lead. Jordan Coons will fall back to 2nd. So we've seen that outside line really be somewhere to go to make passes during the run, and not necessarily somewhere you stay during the race, but it's where you go when you're ready to get the momentum you need to make the pass in a corner or two. So seeing it play out here again, and now Dylan back out front leading this race with Jordan Coons in 2nd now. We'll have to settle in to keep Nick Miller at bay, who's about 2.2 behind as they run with 20 laps to go here in Vegas. Further back in the field, Cody Webster doing a good job of maintaining pace, but slowly creeping into his rearview mirror is Sartaj Mann. His lead now down to about 0.8 of a second and dwindling here as the 49 closes up here. In terms of last time these drivers were on pit road, not much difference between them, but of course, any difference of any significance in tire wear matters at a track like this, in a race like this, as Cody Webster was last on pit road on lap number 97. Sartaj Mann last on pit road, lap number 101. So we'll keep our eye on this battle as they settle in here and we get toward the end of our night. 18 laps on the docket here in Las Vegas. Landon Mills in the 55, piloting that as a relief driver for Brody Garner, now into the top 6 right now. His next job will be to try and close up the 2-second gap between himself and Sartaj Mann to get another top 5 here. As I alluded to earlier, while the Nebula Esports team runs under the same banner, they are very competitive and they fight for every position they can, and we'll see if that trend continues here out of this team. The 55 now trying to close the gap here the lead closing down to about 1.7 between himself and Sartaj Man. This as Cody Webster now may be under threat from Sartaj Man, so you may see a battle develop here inside the top 5. This would be a race for the 4th position. All this while the field continues to check out from the rest of the group here. Dylan Alt out front leading this race. He's got about a 6-second lead over 4th place right now. And you see the gap further back in the field. That car is fast. We're watching this great battle unfold between the 91 and the 49. Man down to the low side. Webster stays high as we lose connection with him as we lose connection with Webster for a moment there. And we'll let them get stabilized there for a moment. And now he is back. The duel continues going down into turn number 3. Side by side, the 91 holding the outside line. The race will continue off the corner. Great momentum here for the 49. We'll try and carry that through the trial, but the 91 not giving up an inch. And who this helps here is the Landon Mills machine of the 55. This is going to help him close up there and get closer to that car. And I apologize. I keep wanting to call the 55 Brody Garner, so just having to mentally tell myself that Landon Mills is piloting a 55 here this evening. So the battle continuing to go on here. 15 to go. Should be 14 to go here in a moment. There it is. And now Sartaj Man will get that spot away, dropping Cody Webster back to the 5th position, and Landon Mills will try and close up and maybe grab 5th position away for himself. So the battle's not over yet in this race. You're seeing that Proximity Racing car come back on the Nebula Esports machine off the corner. Nebula Proximity, 2 of the leading teams here in the series, and they're looking to work together as we go toward the Daytona 24 hours here on iRacing. They're forming a joint effort to field some cars for that race. That's been an exciting run, bringing some of their best drivers to Daytona for that 24-hour race. So we'll see how they perform in that event, and we'll certainly talk to them. Once we get started with Season 6, most likely, we'll probably be able to talk to some of them actually after the race. So we'll likely hear from them and get their thoughts on Daytona, and then, of course, preview Season 6 here in only a couple of weeks. Looking forward to showing you guys that schedule, and obviously Webster out there getting some laps and getting some reps in before he returns to full-time competition. He'll be back in the booth for Iowa and the season finale at Homestead, Miami in 2 weeks. 12 laps to go here. Dylan Alt leading this race. It's something he's done a lot this evening, and he's built on the lead as well. It's about 1.3 ahead for Jordan Coons. Nick Miller back to the 3rd position. And as we've been watching off and on, Sartaj Man and Cody Webster completing the top 5. Landon Mills, Storm Patterson inside the top 7 right now. Mitch Hobbs and Henry Tabor and Latham Joyner the top 10. Looking back at this battle, as we alluded to, the race for 5th underway as they work now toward turn number 1. Landon Mills trying to figure out what the best line is there for the 55. He'll go to the low side on the Proximity Racing machine, and they'll keep racing off of turn number 2. The advantage will go slightly to Webster there as they race now into turn 3, maintaining their position on the low side as Landon Mills, and they'll race hard off the corner. Proximity high, and Nebula Esports on the low side as it comes to 10 to go. Great duel here, trying to cut his way through this field, can maybe even get 4th if he works hard enough here, and that's likely what the 55 is trying to do here. Down still on the low side is Landon Mills, jockeying with Proximity Racing's Cody Webster down the backstretch here. Great battle for position. They'll continue it going down to turn number 3, getting door to door here through turns 3 and 4. The high side working well still for the 91, and the 55 committed to the low side of the track. They continue to spar like they're in a fight under the Vegas lights. Down into turn number 1, side by side. Webster holding the high side, and Brody Gardner's machine being piloted by Landon Mills. And contact there, the 91 into the wall, and the 55 around. Hard racing, hard impact for both of those drivers. Caution out, rack them up. We'll get back behind a pace car here, and massive damage to both of those cars who were having great nights here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, less than a handful of laps away from potentially a good finish there, and heavy damage to a championship contender in the 55. You rack it back and look at what happened there. And up the track goes the 55, hard contact there for both of them. Trying to lock it down to avoid a secondary impact with the wall was the machine being driven by Landon Mills for Brody Garner. Webster a lot of damage to his car, which was a promising run for him. We'll watch it again. It's hard impact for both of those cars there. And one more time before we jump back to live pictures, expecting some pit stops here. So looking at it from above, looking down into turn number 2, just above the track, and it's hard impact there for both of those cars. The 6 tries to snake away from that as the crash breaks out. So, wow, hard contact between those two teams and those two drivers. And the 55 is one of your playoff drivers, that car being driven by Landon Mills. The 91 in the pits here. Drivers making their way to their stall for what should be their last stops of the night. 4 tires and fuel on the docket for all of them, as most of them should have fuel and tires waiting for them. Fuel, obviously, but extra sets of tires as well. So this will certainly shake up the racing action here. What a moment there with 7 to go. Back behind the pace car. Collision between drivers who are fighting for a top 5 there and having good runs overall. Cody Webster and Landon Mills driving the 55 for Brody Garner. Dylan first off pit road. Jordan Coons second. Nick Miller, Sartaj Man, Storm Patterson the top 5. And we'll go and take another look at what happened there and just show you the impact of that crash and the results there. Take another look at it here and pull it up for you to see. As they're up the track, looks like it goes, and just hard impact there for both of those cars. And both of those drivers were having such great runs there. The 55 had worked their way back into the top 6 after falling behind on the strategy. And Webster staying out there, just doing a good job of keeping pace with the drivers and hanging inside the top 5. It's hard contact for them, and that's the ending result there. A lot of damage to both of their cars there. Of course, Webster as well getting some damage there. No nose in that car. Likely trying to get that fixed up here. Get back out on the track as we get back to live pictures here at the track. And what more can you really say about what happened there? And unfortunate to see. The Blaze Brinkley will move past the pace car here. We remain behind said pace car. When we get back going, I'm going to step away, get a drink, and we should be getting the restart here with 2 to go right now, 1 to go next time by. Should be at least, and should be an interesting restart here, and we'll go and set up for you here in a moment. Getting ready for the restart here. In about a lap or so, we should get the 1 to go signal for the drivers to get back underway here. We've already seen what happened to bring out the yellow flag there. You see the 91 after having a great night in his return to the racetrack here in the Premier Series. Contact between himself and the 55 of Landon Mills, resulting in damage to both of their cars after a crash on the exit of turn number 2. Bringing us back behind the pace car here, getting ready for the restart. As the pace car lights are out, Dylan Alt will be the race leader. Jordan Coons, Nick Miller, Sartaj Man, and Mitch Hobbs. Storm Patterson, Landon Mills with that damage will restart 7th. Henry Tabor back in 8th. Latham Joyner and Cody Webster. In the pits right now and back on the lead lap is Blaze Brinkley. Likely having a computer issue, now back on the lead lap as a result of that. Generally in this league, they do allow those drivers who have a technical issue, a true technical issue beyond their control, to get back on the lead lap. So now he is currently 11th, and this just opens up this race wide open. We know that we've seen the 40 struggle on these restarts, and he ends up losing a couple of spots when they get back underway. How is this all going to play out here? What's going to happen once we get back underway here? It's going to be a fun few laps here. Will we see another yellow? Only time will tell. Who's going to roll the dice and lay it all out there? It's going to be chaotic here. And we got it all for you. Getting ready for the green flag here. Bunched up, they're back underway here at Las Vegas. Only a handful of laps left here in Vegas. On the defense already is Dylan in the 40. Nick Miller in hot pursuit. Down through the corner, single file through the first 4 cars. Rising up the track goes to 19, trying to find some momentum up there to get a move. Shifting around, trying to find where the runs are going or where you can get speed in your car. The 40 down to the low side of the track, rising up to keep the door closed from that 19 ever advancing toward him. 3 laps to go here in Las Vegas. Dylan out front here, the pressure being applied by the 19 who wants his 4th win this season. Off turn 2, Dylan keeps the status quo. Single file through the field here. Blaze Brinkley rebounding after a long night for him. He's inside the top 10 now in 8th position. Coming to 2 laps to go. No one able to make a move on Dylan Alt. Across the line, the lead now 1/10 of a second. Slowly dwindling, going down to turn number 1. Nick Miller evaluating his options, figuring out what he can do here. Dylan Alt, clear windshield for him. The car behind him, full windshield full of that 40 as they race down into the corner. Might see a battle for the 3rd position begin to brew, but pulling away off the corner is Dylan Alt, finding speed here, running one of his fastest laps of the night as they take the white flag here in Las Vegas. The white flag, 1 to go, presented by Cory Harts Media and Dylan Alt in his return to the Premier Series. Out here putting on a show, holding off pressure from championship drivers as they race their way down into turn number 4. Last season, he won 9 races. We asked, would he get to 10 that season? This season, only running the 1 race so far, and he's looking to go to victory lane during it. Dylan Alt will win here at Las Vegas. Nick Miller will finish in the 2nd position. Jordan Coons continuing a good run into the playoffs, finishing 3rd. Sartaj Mann finishes 4th, and Storm Patterson will finish inside the top 5. Henry Tabor finishes 6th, and Mitch Hobbs 7th. Blaze Brinkley, Latham Joyner, Landon Mills completing the top 10. So congratulations to the driver of the 40. It's Dylan Alt getting the victory here this evening at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. That is his 1st win this season. Started on the pole, won the stage, and won the race. A complete sweep, and that is something we saw that guy do a lot last season. And last season we had 2 stages, and he would sweep those and get the win too, and sometimes win the pole as well. Burning it down here, Nick Miller, there's not much he could do to try and close that gap in the closing stages of that race after the late caution. And now the 40 will celebrate victory. Another 2nd place finish for Nick Miller, and keeping what's been a great run going for him. Just coming up short there here in Vegas. We'll start talking to the drivers here as they file their way into the waiting area, and we'll hear from them. But that was a very interesting way to end the race there. The late caution coming out, affecting the 55 of Landon Mills and Cody Webster. Great runs they both were having, coming together in the waning moments of the race and effectively putting each other outside of what could have been a top 6 run for each of them. So right now we wait for our drivers to begin filing their way into the booth here. And you know, what a way to kick off the first race here in the championship 5 round. You know, for me, looking at how they're running, it just played out exactly as we expected. We would see those long green flag runs, pit road playing a tremendous factor in the race, maybe a little more on the caution side of things, where we saw Landon Mills basically get stuck further back in the field because of the extra time on pit road coming in for that late stop, as opposed to what we saw during the green flag pit stops there. Important, but maybe those last pit stops there right before we got that long green flag run playing a big role in what we saw play out in the final few moments here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. But now we'll go ahead and start talking to these drivers here and hearing from them and talking about what the experience here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, the first driver we'll bring in will be the driver of the 6, Storm Patterson, getting a top 5
Hey,
here,
bud.
gaining 5 spots tonight. Storm, do you got us?
Yeah, I got you.
So talk to us about your night out there. You gained 5 spots this evening, a good run for you. And what was your evening like?
Uh, it was a night, that's for sure. I don't know. It was pretty average, to be honest. I expected me to be a lot better tonight, but I don't know. I it was just a night, to be honest. I mean, we had top 5 speed. I don't think much more than that. We saved pretty good. I tried a few new strats. We kept the car clean, but yeah. I mean, we'll walk out of here with a 5th. It doesn't do anything really for us because we're not fighting for points anymore. So yeah, we'll just get out of here with the 5th place finish and move on to whatever track is next week. But yeah. Anyways, to answer your question, I just went on a whole tangent. Um, it was just a normal night. We didn't really do much. We pushed at the beginning of the race and we pushed up parts when we needed to. And yeah, we were racing with Landon and Mitch mainly because we were all kind of on the same strat towards the end of the race there. But yeah, we were pretty decent tonight.
So we got Iowa next race. What are your thoughts on that small track out there in Iowa?
Uh, I don't know. It's either gonna be a good race or it's gonna be a caution fest. Depends on how many people we have that show up. It's been kind of smaller car counts. Yeah, I wish tonight was a bigger car count. It would have been a lot of fun here. I love this track, but yeah. I think we'll do decent at Iowa. I mean, we're pretty decent each week. We're never really that far off.
Hmm.
Except for when Dylan shows up and then everyone's that far off. But yeah. We'll show up and we'll probably just be there. I don't see us really having a chance to win at Iowa. Just not one of my stronger tracks, and I feel like tonight is probably my last chance if I was a little bit faster. And if Dylan didn't show up, but yeah, I mean we'll just move on to the off season and come back next season, I guess. Pretty much. I mean I'm already focusing on pretty much the next season.
Gotcha. Well, you looked strong out there. We kept our eyes on you throughout the night. That paint scheme looked absolutely phenomenal under the lights here in Las Vegas. And it's a good run for you, getting a top 5. And we hope you do well when we go to Iowa next week. Is there anyone you want to shout out or mention as you enjoy a top 5 finish this evening?
Yeah, all my Nebula teammates. Ryan Berry. That was pretty cool stunt he pulled, but I digress. Yeah, no, Nebula, Fort Worth, screen printing, Landon Mills Designs for this paint scheme. Really nice looking paint scheme that he always gives me. Yeah, pretty much that's it. Like I said, we'll just go on to next season.
Awesome. Well, we'll keep our eyes when we head to America's Heartland in Iowa and, of course, watch next season as well. But congratulations on a great night tonight here at Las Vegas.
10-4, thanks, bud. Thank you for
All right.
Marcus.
No problem. We'll keep moving through our interviews here. We'll bring in one of our first championship drivers to talk to this evening. It's Sartaj Man, who has moved his way through this field here, was right there jockeying for a lot of the top 5 positions, a step on the podium, finishing in 4th position tonight. So just one position shy of one of those steps on the top 3 podium, but a great night nonetheless for Sartaj. You got us.
Yeah, I got you.
So talk to us about your evening out here in Las Vegas. What was the track like? How did the car feel? And talk about those battles you were having out there for position throughout this race.
You know, really, I already know I was pretty much going to be competing for a top 5 here. I love Vegas, but the car itself, I wasn't really a big fan of it this race. It was just tight overall. It was just save right front and you'll be good. But I didn't really get the memo on that on the first run, but later on I figured that out pretty quick. Started saving it.
So throughout the race, we talk about moments in the race that were really important. When we had those green flag pit stops there, how did you manage your pace to be able to get through those green flag pit stops and keep yourself in position to what ultimately was a late race caution that was able to help you out there and get you a little closer for an ending run dash there?
Yeah, I really only had one person from behind me that was really going to pressure me, and it was Landon. And I was trying to pace myself so that really I don't get speeding and I don't ruin this chance to get more spots. Because, I mean, in front of me, I really didn't have anybody pass. Behind me, I didn't only had Landon. So, really, it was just pacing myself to not speed.
So what are your thoughts on Iowa? We're heading there here in a few days, and you won at Martinsville earlier this season. and you've shown some pretty good strength on these tough tracks. What are your thoughts on Iowa? Do you think you can keep this good run you've been on going?
I mean, Iowa is just an iffy track for me. It just depends on like what day it is, what day of the week it is for me there. I mean, it's just a 50-50 track whether I'll be good or not, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens when it comes around. Hopefully I'll put in a good performance there.
Gotcha. So before we let you go, is there anyone you want to shout out or mention as you enjoy another top 5 finish here at Las Vegas?
Nah, nobody.
Gotcha. Well, it's always good talking to you and look forward to seeing what you do when we head to America's Heartland and Iowa Speedway next race.
All right, thank you.
We keep moving through our driver interviews here. The next person we'll bring in is Jordan Coons, who builds on the win he got last race at Dover International Speedway with a podium finish here at Las Vegas. And not unusual seeing him chain together good runs. He's done it all playoffs, and we'll talk to him about his night here right now. Jordan Coons, you got us.
Yes, I do.
So talk to us about your evening here at Las Vegas. You gained a spot from where you qualified, started 4th, finished 3rd, and you were in the thick of things toward the end of that race. Great pit stop as well, helping you out at the end. Talk to us about your evening, and then talk to us about that green flag pit stop and how important it was toward establishing what we saw at the end of the race.
Well, it was a great race. It's usually 50-50 if I do well here at Las Vegas. Sometimes I can do really good and sometimes not so good. So the setup and the practice I put in were clearly on my side. So the it would the pit stop at there at the end, the green flag pit stop. I practiced it this season, didn't get a speeding penalty like last season, so that's a positive. And then I just wanted to pit early there, so to get the undercut, and it worked to get the gap to the Nick, which I was mainly focusing on. So it was a good race. I beat every playoff contender except for Nick, and I'm second place in the points, only 2 points behind him. So good starting place.
So talk to us about that outside line. It seemed like it would wake up sometimes and sometimes it wouldn't be there, and it was kind of iffy at times. How was the outside line working for you, and when did you find it to be the best opportunity to use the line? Was it at the beginning of the runs, late in the runs? Where did you feel like that outside groove was best for you?
It was definitely better on the beginning of the run, but I feel like you run the right line and use the right methods of pinching people to where they wouldn't wreck you. You could definitely get it to work, but you had to have a lot of trust in the other driver, and but the one negative is that it did burn up the tires, so I was trying to limit it. So, and I think I did a good job of saving the tire this race.
So now we turn our attention to Iowa Speedway, and you've had a knack for these tricky tracks that you have to fight to get around. We remember the great show you put on at Rockingham Speedway, slightly different, but again, another one of those really awkward, tricky tracks to run. What are your thoughts on Iowa as we turn our attention there to race 2 of the championship round?
Well, Iowa, probably one of my worst tracks on iRacing, in league races at least. I've never really had a good race there. Of course, last season I was running second and leading some laps, so that's one positive going into next week. Just gotta find something that they don't have.
Well, we'll certainly watch you when we head there. And before we let you go, is there anyone you want to shout out or mention as you enjoy another podium finish here? This season's been a great run for you, and hopefully you build on it as we go to Iowa Speedway.
I'd like to shout out to Brucey Racewear, um, Cory Harts Media, and Cory Harts for making this amazing paint scheme. I think this is the first time I ran it in the night, and it looks really good. So I'd like to thank him for that, and everybody at Proximity Racing, and of course you for making these amazing broadcasts every week.
I appreciate it and always love putting on a great show for you guys. And you all delivered a great show here tonight in Las Vegas. And I'm sure we'll see the same when we head to Iowa next week. Congratulations on the top 3 finish, and we'll see you then.
Thank you.
We'll keep moving through our driver interviews here. The next person we'll bring in is a driver who was toward the front the entire evening. It was really hard not to see the 19 at the front of the field. Started in second, finished second, took the fight to the 40 of Dylan Alt, but came just a little bit short there at the end. but a tremendous run and builds on what's been a great playoffs for him. It's Nick Miller, driver of the 19. Do you got us?
Yeah, I got you.
So talk to us about your night out there. Overall, it seemed like that car has had speed consistently through the evening, short run and long run. While you came out short there, you were still one of the fastest cars out there. Talk to us about your night.
Oh yeah, I don't know. Every week that I feel like I might have a chance to win, there's always some random guy that's got to show up. Well, one week it was Basin, and then it was Parker White, and we have Dylan tonight. So another P2, kind of good after the last couple weeks. How we screwed up Atlanta and then wrecked at Dover. So we'll take it. I think I'm the points leader, so we'll take it going into 2 races left.
So talk about your night here and I guess how the runs were working for him because we saw you really get up there and attack and take the fight to the 40 and also be able to just hang up there and stay with that group for a long time. How did you do that? How did you keep that car just wound up constantly to never really lose touch with those drivers, especially as that long run went on?
I'm not really sure. It was really hard to pass. There's no runs built up. No, like it feels like there's no draft in those cars. So kind of just had to hope the driver in front messes up. And Dylan's obviously now a pro driver. He's not gonna do that. He hasn't done that in probably like 2 years. But I mean, this is my favorite track. So just to keep up with Dylan is kind of shows a lot.
So now we turn our attention to the Iowa Speedway here next week. What are your thoughts on Iowa? We've seen you win at these kind of trickier tracks. You won at Nashville Super Speedway and you won at Phoenix, kind of those flatter tracks. We know obviously Nashville has some banking, but in retrospective to this track, obviously a bit different than say your typical tracks like your high bank tracks like this. What are your thoughts on Iowa? Do you think you can build on this and maybe help carry yourself as a points leader into the final race of the playoffs over at Homestead Miami?
I really like Iowa. It's one of the few short tracks still left that has multiple grooves. I'm not sure how it'll be in the B car, but I know the truck was just there not too long ago, and you could run just about every lane. So, um, hopefully we're fast. Hope we can build a bigger points lead because I already know Homestead's not gonna be. It's gonna be bottom single file and probably from one seam to the other seam. It's not really gonna be much passing. So, try to get all the points we can at Iowa and just have a safe Homestead race.
Yeah, we look forward to seeing what you do there. You got 3 wins so far this season, winning at Nashville, Chicago, and Phoenix. You've been incredibly consistent here in the playoffs. Is there anyone you want to shout out or mention before we let you go and enjoy another opportunity to stand on the podium here tonight at Las Vegas?
The team, uh, it's about it. Oh, Landon for the paint, as Landon's gonna. I might as well just because I mean he's pretty much doing all my paints, but Landon's gonna do my painting for Rotor Pro and any other scheme you see me run throughout the iRacing service. So shout out Landon.
Gotcha. Well, we'll look forward to seeing that out here. He's painted some incredible cars, and he'll be one of the presenting sponsors later this next season. So look forward to showcasing more of his work there. And of course, you're driving that car, and making it look good. So congratulations to you, Nick, and we look forward to seeing what you do when we head to Iowa next race.
Yep, thank you.
All right, and we'll keep moving through our interviews here. The next driver we'll bring in will be our race winner, Dylan Alt, who we have the pleasure of having graced our presence here this evening, going to victory lane here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, fighting off drivers who are contending for a championship and really putting on a great show. That thunderous pass from the high side to the low side during that long green flag run left me speechless at times. Dylan Alt, good to see you again. Do you got us?
Yeah, I do.
So talk to us about your night out there. You started on the front row, you raced really hard, and you put on a great show with these other drivers out here who are running for trophies and running for the championship. Talk us through your night and just how the race was for you. It seemed like fairly easy street at times for you, but it seemed like you had some work to do out there a little bit too.
Yeah, it was a pretty fun race. I always like Las Vegas with the B car. So when I saw that you guys were running that, I decided to join. So yeah, I knew it was going to be competitive with Nick and Jordan, everyone else in there. So I didn't really know what to expect. I had to refresh myself with all the rules again. Um, so yeah, the first stage, I didn't even realize if there was going to be a caution or not. So I just tried to save to the first caution or to the first yellow, and yeah, luckily we made it there. And yeah, after that, me and Nick were racing hard, and I knew Cody and Jordan were gonna kill their stuff up when we were racing them, and I think it turned out to be like it was gonna be like a fuel strategy race. So while I was running laps, I was saving fuel with Nick and everyone, like all of that huge cluster behind us. Yeah, I was just saving fuel and managed to get that one caution and just I don't know, I just did in first and won the race, I guess.
So talk to us about that final restart there. We've seen you kind of. Now I'm going to ask this question. On those restarts before the final one, we see you kind of fall back there a little bit as drivers started using the outside line, but it seemed like you had a lot more of a stronger restart on the final one. Talk us through the restarts. Were there just issues getting up to speed, or was it just a different approach to how you were going to attack that restart? Was it more about saving your equipment earlier in the race as opposed to laying it all out there in the final like 7 laps?
Yeah, the first restart, and also I think that second restart we had, I was in first gear, and
Hmm.
I just could not get a start at all. So that last restart, I just started in second gear, and it worked out very well for me. And actually, Nick had the best restart out of all of us, so he was right on my back bumper. But then I just knew once he got close to me or we got side by side, I knew that I had that experience running earlier. I ran the wall in 3 and 4, and I saw one lap he tried it, but I don't think he tried it anymore. But I knew I could make it work. So if it happened that went side by side, I know I can still pass him. So yeah,
So we know we haven't seen you very often here this season. You were one of the winningest drivers back in season 4. That's probably for a reason. So tell the people kind of what you're doing now. I think we might be seeing more of you here on the big time here on iRacing.
yeah. For the 2022 series or season, I'm going to be a Coke Series driver. I have not yet announced what team I'm going to be on, but right now I'm streaming it. Maybe I'm going to announce it tomorrow. But yeah, look forward to that.
So for people to find out that announcement, where can they follow you? Are you on social media so people can kind of start building that your fan club there?
Yeah, I'm on a Twitter. I'm Alt42, and on Twitch I am alt_F4. So you can watch me on that.
Gotcha. Well, congratulations on making it to the Coca-Cola iRacing Series. An incredible feat there. A lot of work going way back a few months to get the job done there. So congratulations to you and wish you all the best as you take part in that series. And congratulations on putting on a great show here. Is there anyone you want to shout out or mention as you enjoy this win here and kind of a return to form for you after that tear you went on last season?
Thank you. I would just like to thank you for streaming this and for broadcasting it,
Awesome.
and Cody for putting up this league. And yeah, that race was actually pretty fun. So
Yeah,
thanks for
always
all
good.
the drivers in there and everyone watching me too.
Yeah, always fun watching you out there. Again, I don't know how you went from the penthouse suite down to the casino floor in those last couple of corners there on that green flag run to make that pass from third to first, but it was incredible to watch. So, congratulations to you, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you again, if not here in the Coca-Cola iRacing Series. So, congratulations on that, and look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you.
All right, I'll wrap up things here. And what a night. It was always great to have these drivers come through and showcase their skills here. You know, we've had drivers come through our series and make their way to that pro series, the iRacing, eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series here on the service. Vincente Silas comes to mind right up top now. Dylan Alt and plenty of others who are trying to work up to that next level and really push themselves. And you see what happens when they show up. They elevate the game here in the league, and it's always good to see. So, with that, we'll wrap up our broadcast night here. We'll be back 1 week from this evening. We head to Iowa Speedway to do 150 laps around there. There'll be two races until we decide our champion. So many storylines. The little playoffs tower will be back, so you see exactly how many points are on the line going into next week's race. So, with that, congratulations to Dylan Alt and congratulations to our playoff drivers on surviving their first of 3 challenges in the championship round.